for quite a while, so perhaps if anyone would like to, this is your opportunity to have a stand up for a minute. Just move the shoulders about, stretch the neck a bit, and when you're ready, sit yourself back down again. You don't realise how short a time it is before you actually feel a bit of fatigue, especially in chairs which are quite static. So I'm going to talk about the mind and the link to the body. In Western culture, we have this belief that our minds are superior to our body, and it's thought of for a long time that they're dissociated. In fact, neuroscience and cognitive behavioural science corroborate that the mind and body are intrinsically linked, and nothing happens in the mind that isn't mapped in the body. So everything you think about has an equal response in the body, and they're one and the same. Planning, talking, communicating, decision-making, and thinking. Components of thinking come from your motor cortex, and the motor cortex is the thing that actually controls your physical movement. So they're very, very interwoven with each other. You really can't dissociate one from the other. Thoughts, moods, behaviours, emotions, all these things have a corroborating effect on our physical being. Let's just consider 3 fairly fundamental emotions and what happens in your body when these emotions are emitted. The first one being fear. What's the first thing that you feel in your body when you're scared? Anyone want to hazard a guess? Sort of tightness in the stomach, get that sort of horrible feeling in the stomach, tightness in the chest, the sort of tightness here in the throat, and quite a strong sensation runs through the body. Now turn your attention to joy and happiness and what happens to you when you're feeling happy. Suddenly your shoulders drop, your breathing becomes expansive, and your movements are much more relaxed. Lastly, the most prevalent one for what I'm going to go on and talk about in a minute is anger and stress and what they affect in the body. When you're feeling stressed, you have an immediate physical response of tension. You tense up through all your limbs, your muscles get short, and your jaw changes, you tighten through the jawline, and your facial expression changes. And we can all actually see this all the time in people. We don't tend to be consciously as aware as we could be of what's happening with people round about us, but it's happening, these cues are happening and telling us things all the time, but we tend to our brains are so busy, we're not necessarily concentrating on what's being offered to us by these physical traits that are being displayed. So let's just turn our attention to the workplace and specifically to stress. Mike mentioned targets and the effect targets have on us. Perhaps targets could be perceived as a stressful occurrence. Andy, mentioned appraisals. Now, appraisals might also have the same effect of making us feel uptight and stressed. In addition, there are many other things in the workplace that are perceived as stressors, such as constant change, behaviours, bullying behaviours, dictatorial style of management, autocratic style management, a lack of control. All these things put us in situations of feeling that we're not comfortable. Now, in stress, it's an interesting thing because it's there for a reason, and it's a very good reason we have stress, because without it we wouldn't be here today. Stress is there as a survival instinct for us to beat or to run away from situations of physical threat. So in days gone by, hopefully days gone by, if a wild animal was chasing you, what you did was you had a huge surge of hormones which created the flight and fight response. So we either ran away from that wild animal or we stayed and fought it, i.e. the limbs got tense and prepared to do this. The problem occurs nowadays because there are not many wild animals in your offices. Well, I'm assuming there's not many physical wild animals in your offices. However, there is a perception that there are stressors which give us the same effect of that wild animal chasing us. Now, if we have the same perception, unfortunately the same response happens. we go into a flight and fight response by a perception that isn't in existence. Something we do have control over, but often we go into an innate response without the thought of why. When we go into this stress response, we have three phases. We have an alarm phase, we have a resistance phase, and then we have a rest and recovery phase. Now, in normal circumstances and in the innate evolutionary process, that's what we did. We went through these three phases. In today's environment, unfortunately, the perception of stressors in the workplace is slowly going up and up and up and up and up, which means the recovery and rest period is going down and down and down and down and down. And that has a direct lead to ill health, absenteeism, productivity problems, and performance issues. So the link is indisputed nowadays. Not that we've got wild animals in the office, but we have many perceptions of stressors which are increasing the risk to ill health. Let me just highlight some specific areas that I've experienced in the workplace. One was many, many years ago in ITN. There were three girls who were sitting in an office and they were quite cheery. Lots of laughter, lots of hilarity, enjoying each other's company and banter. Work was quite hard and deadlines were pretty excessive and the expectation was great, but the counterbalance of the laughter and the emission of what laughter does to the body, it had a balancing effect for the deadlines and pressure of the work. Unfortunately, a wise manager came and looked at his receptionist in this environment of hilarity and decided, nah, that's not for me, my receptionist isn't doing her work. I'll remove her from that environment and I'll put her in her own office. What do you think the results of that were? What happened to that girl? Long-term absenteeism. Within a 3-month period, she went from being able to perform at work to taking long-term absenteeism due to stress at work. The counterbalance wasn't there. The leadership wasn't there. The understanding wasn't there. Karasek has done some research, don't know if any of you are familiar with this, on command, control and the support that you get in the workplace. And he's realised that if there is heavy demands with no control and autonomy, or little control and autonomy, and there's no social support or appropriate leadership, the balance can have a direct link on ill health, absenteeism, and all the other subsequent issues. Oh, I'm putting a red card. I think that needs to time up. Nearly finished. The one other thing I wanted to mention to you was another situation. A publishing firm was asked to go in because there was one particular department where there was a high level of absenteeism. So I walked into this particular department and I didn't really have to go very far to realise why there was problems. I only had to look at people, I looked at the faces, I looked at the postures, I looked at the way they were reacting and speaking to each other, and I felt what was in the atmosphere. The atmosphere was heavy, there was very little laughter, there was very little intrinsic communication, and I thought, well, that's why there's so much absenteeism. What do you think the precursor to that environment was? Why was it like that? Where did I then go to look and see what might be the cause for this? My last port of call was the manager of this department, and I only had to go in and look at him and talk to him for a 2-minute period to understand exactly why there were so many problems in that particular environment, and it was directly linked to his style with his staff. So let me leave you with this thought. I want you to look around each other, be more observant to what you're seeing with people, and when you next look at people in your workplace, think about what's happening with them just by the visual cues, by the body language you're getting from them, by what they're offering you, because it offers more than anything else. And that will be able to direct you to the potential risk factors, be it the system, be it the manager, be it any of the other factors that we've mentioned tonight. And I'll leave you with this. How you perceive things, how you are as a person, you directly project onto other people. So I'll be happy to chat at further length after we've finished and look forward to seeing you later.